we are not now live, we may begin the meeting.
We're live. Okay, welcome everybody to the December 14th, July 14th council meeting. With that, could we have a call to order, Madam City Clerk?
Thank you. Mayor John Caposcia,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rochelle Arizmendi,
Present.
Councilmember Jean Goss,
Here.
Councilmember John Harabedian.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum and may conduct city business.
Okay, Councilmember Goss will be leading us with the Pledge of Allegiance and inspiration.
Okay, and everyone could rise. We'll have the flag up on your screen. Please place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You can be seated now. Like everyone else on the council, I sometimes at wit's end to try to figure out something that's inspirational or for invocation. And I went through some poems, and I went through some poems about summer, and I went through some poems about baseball, because as you're probably all aware, if you're a baseball fan, hopefully a Dodger fan, but some of you are not. Looks like we're gonna have Major League Baseball here in another week or two. And I'm hoping, I think a lot of us are hoping that that's gonna put a spring in our step, maybe put a positive, something positive in the air in America. Certainly we need it. And so I was looking through all kinds of interesting poetry in preparation for this, and I found a poem written by a guy named Patrick Lewis back in 1954. And I think it neatly summarizes the whimsical nature of sports, and at the same time, the frustration of baseball. You know, when you play baseball, it's a game of failure, as they say, because the very best hitters will come up to the plate and maybe, if they're really good, get 3 hits every 10 times they come up to the plate. 7 times they're going to go down, failed. And that's because it's very difficult to hit that little white ball. It can come at you from many different angles and different speeds. Ted Williams claimed it was the hardest thing to do in sports, was to hit a baseball. I think he's probably right. Anyway, this poem, I think, gets to that, and maybe gets us thinking a little bit about sports and something a little more positive for the rest of this summer. This is a short poem, so blink and you're going to miss it. The fastball that you hope to poke is smoke. The curveball that you thought was there is air. The knuckler wobbling up to you can dipsy-do. The screwball, an ironic twist, hits your fist. The sinker comes as a surprise. It dies. The let-up pitch you can't resist, you missed. The spitball that by law is forbidden is hidden. Hopefully our guys will get some hits this summer. Mr. Mayor, floor is back to you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Goss. I, for one, am really excited about the upcoming season. Okay. Okay, now approval of the meeting agenda. We do have a couple of changes. We'd like to move the water system update to before the consent calendar. Is that correct, Director Reynoso? Do you want to put it right before the consent calendar?
That is correct. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. And we're also going to move on the consent calendar. Item F, we're going to postpone that and move it to the 28th. Are there any other changes?
I'll move for approval with those changes.
I'll second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor John Caposcia,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi,
Aye.
Councilmember Goss,
Aye.
Councilmember Harabedian.
Aye.
The motion to approve the agenda as amended was approved by a unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you, Madam City Clerk. Okay, next is approval of the meeting minutes. Any changes to the meeting minutes? There's one little typo, Madam City Clerk. You meant to say quaint, Quaint, and it says Quant. I think everybody knows, I think it's okay. Okay, any other changes? We have a motion.
Move to approve with the correction of the typo.
I'll second it.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Yes. Mayor Kaposha,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi,
Aye.
Councilmember Goss,
Aye.
Councilmember Harabedian.
Aye.
The motion to approve the minutes with the correction of the typo was approved by unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mayor and City Council reports. Who'd like to go first?
I have no report tonight.
Ms. Goss?
Yeah, just a brief report. Attended the latest Library Board of Trustees meeting, and I guess the big news is Trustee Rich Proctor was elected as the chair of the board for this year. So congratulations to Chair Proctor.
Sounds like a good choice.
It is a good choice.
Okay. Councilmember Harabedian.
Yeah, well, first, I just wanted to say thank you to the 4th of July committee. As usual, they did, outstanding work, and under the circumstances to pull off what they pulled off with the parade, even though I couldn't take part in it, I think was really outstanding. And, I heard, we all heard collectively from a few people that said, this was their favorite parade because it went through so many different parts of town. So, I think that kudos to them, hats off to them for really pulling it off. And secondly, I just want to make an announcement. We have an election on November 3rd, 2020, and we're going to have at least one council seat open, but some already know, and I just want to make it official that I will not be running for re-election. So there will be at least 2 seats open. And it's bittersweet, obviously, after 8 years of being on the council. I do think that it is time to move on, but I think the city's in great hands with the council members that will be left and with the city management. But I did want everyone to know so that good people could step up to the plate and hopefully run to fill the next 4 years, or there's a 2-year seat on the council left, so 2 to 4 years. And it's an outstanding experience. Couldn't recommend it highly enough. And I do hope that people who are out there looking around for good leaders in the city, look in the mirror, think about taking the sacrifice, think about running, talk to their friends, talk to their family, and really do some soul searching, because I think it's a really rewarding experience. And I think we're really at a time now where we're doing great things in the city, and we could use good people up there. So I won't be there for past November, but I am very thankful for my time. So just wanted everyone to know that. Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, thank you, Councilmember Harabedian. It's going to be a big loss losing you from the council, no doubt. And I'd also want to congratulate the 4th of July committee. To use baseball parlance here, not only did you hit a home run, but you hit a grand slam. I thought that was just amazing that you pulled that off the way you did, and it was way better than I could have imagined. So I just really want to thank you for that. That was just outstanding leadership on the part of that committee to really just pull that off and make it happen. Very difficult circumstances. Okay, I also will not be seeking re-election. And yeah, it was a tough call. I did give it serious consideration. But after 8 years, put a lot of time and effort into this. It's been an incredibly rewarding experience. And I'm just grateful to have served on the city council on behalf of the citizens of Sierra Madre. There is no finer place in California or America, I'm concerned, than Sierra Madre. And I personally am very, very excited about all the people I heard of rumors that are going to be running. And I hope everybody I've heard actually does. And I'd like to see a really strong slate of candidates and a really competitive election. And Councilmember Harabedian and I, when we got elected, boy, that's what it was then. I mean, it was knockdown, drag out. And, you know, there was a sitting mayor that was actually lost re-election. So we had same situation where we had a 2-year seat that was up for to fulfill, and two candidates were a very heated race there. And I think there were 4 or 5 candidates for when Harabedian and I ran. And it was tough. And I think it worked out very well for Sierra Madre to go through that experience and really call the candidates out on the carpet as to for what they stand for and what they believe and what values they had and how they would handle different situations. And that was a huge benefit to the city of Sierra Madre. So anyway, we have a lot of good candidates available. And again, I hope they just step up and they can experience what we did, which is a very, very rewarding experience. It's something you'll never forget. And you'll look back at some of the best days of your life, I'm sure. So with that, again, it's been great. So thank you to all the citizens of Sierra Madre and to my peers on the council. They've just been absolutely fabulous to work with, and to the city manager and all the staff. You guys have been great. This has just been wonderful. So this is a good time to step down when everything is going so well. So thank you all. Okay, so with that, we'll open it up for public comment for any items that are not on the agenda.
Mayor, the city staff received a number of emails, but none for items not on the agenda.
Okay, is there anybody in queue that's calling in?
Mr. Mayor, yes, there is.
Okay,
Good evening, caller.
Hello.
In the city of Sierra Madre. We are currently taking public comment for items not on the agenda. Please state your name
Yes.
and city of residence for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. You may proceed.
Thank you. This is Deb Sheridan, Valley Vista Drive, Sierra Madre, and I am so sorry to hear both of you will not be running. You have done a fabulous job. Thank you very much. That's not why I was calling in. I'm sad to say that, but I just wanted to ask you, I've heard that the Pasadena Unified School District will not be opening the school year in person. It will be online. But if they return to classrooms in person, I've also heard that they cannot require all children to wear masks. And I'm wondering if there's anything that either we can do as residents or you can do as council members or as the city to do something about this. I'm sure we can lobby the governor and our representatives, but what else can we do? It seems to me this is the easiest part of staying safe. So just have, if some kid doesn't come with a mask, which would have been my kid in the old days, then just have extra masks at school for the kids that don't have one. And the masks save lives, period. And I thank you for considering that.
okay. Thank you, Ms. Sheridan. And you are one of the special people that made this job so rewarding. I had met you before I was running as part of the General Plan Steering Committee. And it's just great to have had your support, and you brought up a lot of issues, and we haven't always agreed on everything, but you're one of those great citizens of Sierra Madre. So thank you. Okay, anybody else that would like to comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have about 3 more callers in the queue.
Okay,
Good evening, caller. Thank you for calling. We are currently taking public comment on items not on the agenda. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. You may proceed.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I'm Gary Hood on North Baldwin. During these troubled times when we're not meeting in groups or at council meetings, I think communication is even more important. At public comment, not only does the council hear what someone at the podium says, but the residents in council chambers and online also get to hear what other residents have to say. I've learned a lot at public comments, and I've changed my position or have gone along with what others have said. These public comments are very important, not only to council, but help maintain good communications with our neighbors. Not reading comments that come in at public comment time is not maintaining good communication at a most important time of our history. Plus, how do we know what council hears in making their decisions? Please read public email comments at council meetings during these times. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hood.
Good evening, caller. We are currently taking comment on items not on the agenda. If you will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. If you're currently listening to the meeting live, please mute your TV to avoid feedback. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. Please proceed.
David Gordon. I want to join Deb in lamenting the fact that two stalwart councillors are not going to stand again, and I hope that they will be prepared to reconsider their decision. I would also support Gary Hood's request that emails sent in for public comment are read out. As you may know, I am president of Sierra Madre Playhouse, and I wanted to give you a brief update. We early on realized that we were not going to be able to open physically for quite a while. And so our board early on in this process came to the conclusion that we would not be physically able to reopen until sometime next year. And that's still our position, even more so given that, that the coronavirus has come back in full force in Los Angeles County. So we are moving towards being more of a virtual playhouse. We have had 2 play readings which were available by Zoom and on YouTube, and both of them were extremely good and have had comments from the public which showed how much they appreciate being in touch with the Playhouse in this way. It's not like live theater, but it is pretty damn good. And we will be planning to do an event like this once a month. The absence of the productions in the Playhouse have, as one might imagine, have a devastating effect on our finances. And we are next week going to begin a campaign, a fundraising campaign, to see us through the rest of the year. It's going to be called Light the Lights, a reference to the marquee, whose messages during this time, I think, have been a beacon of light for the community. So we are going to do our best to stay live and alive, even though we can't put on performances. We're exploring with the city the idea of putting on performances in Memorial Park next year. So we're going to do everything to show that we hope and intend to come back in full force. Though given the severity of the pandemic, nothing is certain. And so I would urge all those people who are listening to respond to the appeal starting next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Good evening, caller. We are currently taking public comment on items not on the agenda. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. You may proceed.
City of residence? Did I understand you?
Yes, correct.
Because, I mean, it is the city of Sierra Madre. You want my city of residence?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
And you may proceed.
Kind of silly, but okay.
Go ahead, you may provide your comment.
right now?
Yes, you're on live.
This is Heather Allen. I can't hear myself, so.
We hear you and the council hears you as well.
Oh, I see. It's a little bit behind. Okay. Obviously, I live in Sierra Madre. I am calling because I basically can't hear the meeting very well. There's very poor transmission. It's cutting in and out. I heard Debbie Sheridan's voice. I recognized it, but I don't know what she said. And I know the problem is in Spectrum because I'm watching television on my iPhone at the same time, and those channels are coming in fine. Is there anything they can do to clear the transmission? That's really why I called in for items not on the agenda. That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Allen. Any others?
Mr. Mayor, that was the last caller for public comment.
Okay, all right, so let's, I have not heard anything about an announcement from PUSD. Has any of the other council members or city manager?
Yeah, they made the announcement today about the 100% distance learning.
Okay.
So,
All right, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. If any of you would care to comment on that, feel free to do so.
yeah, I mean, I don't, go ahead, Rochelle.
I was just going to comment and just to encourage anyone who has any concerns, similar to what they do with us at City Council, is to contact PUSD board and to share their concerns.
Okay, as far as Mr. Hood, Mr. Gordon made comments about we should read the comments. And actually, I was thinking the same thing. And if council would like me to do that, I have comments here that are for other items on the agenda. And I can try to boil them down. Some are a little lengthy, so I don't want to read the whole thing. But if, you know, I'm willing to do it if you folks are in agreement.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Great.
We'll do it then. Okay. Let's see. The other concern from Ms. Allen is the transmission. So far, we've done pretty well here, so I don't know that the problem is on the broadcast side. Maybe there is an issue at your home, Ms. Allen, because does staff want to comment on that? Because we've been doing this now for 4 or 5 weeks and it's worked out pretty well.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick comment. We did verify the feeds are looking fine on our end. We're going to continue to monitor the feed to see if we notice any glitches and try to take action if we can. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see what's next on the agenda. Okay, now we have a presentation on water from Director Reynoso.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. If I can have Mr. Carlson put the presentation up. These are really stressful times for everybody, so I'm really happy to be here tonight to give you an update on our water system and provide you with some good news on some of the work that we've done together over the last 5 to 10 years. So we'll be covering 5 topics. We'll be looking at our water resources, our capital improvement, AMI, and then the 2 items that are on the consent calendar are the leak forgiveness program and a district grant. So when we look back to 2013, Sierra Madre historically has produced all of its water through groundwater rights. We have 1,764 acre feet of groundwater rights. And to put that in perspective, the community uses about 2,100 to 2,400 acre feet, depending on the year. And that would be equivalent to a football field filled to 2,500 feet. So it's a large amount of water. When we look back to 2013, our groundwater rights were reduced because we were in the middle of a drought and groundwater levels got to a point where our adjudication was cut from 1,764 to 940 acre feet. And we were really looking at how we're going to meet the community's demands on a year-to-year basis. And right at that time, the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District completed the interconnection with the Metropolitan Water District that delivered water to Sierra Madre. It was an emergency interconnection, and it really came at a perfect time. We actually activated that interconnection and introduced that water directly into our system. And we know now that that water we had some issues with that water in our distribution system. The chemistry didn't really react well with our pipes. So we had to look at a different way to operate. And as your representative on the Raymond Basin Management Board, we went to the Raymond Basin Management Board and we asked if we could manage our aquifer much like the San Gabriel, like the main San Gabriel Basin does. What they do there is when a producer extracts water in excess of their adjudicated right, they have to replenish that water with imported water. So in 2015, we started a pilot. The Raymond Basin Management Board approved the pilot, and we pumped out our 940 acre feet, and the 11 or 1,200 acre feet that we took in excess, we replenished during the year. And every year we review that program, and it seems to be working really, really well. It's a really good way to manage our basin. We don't take anything in excess of our adjudicated right. So the basin is managed a lot more responsibly. And we've actually seen water levels hold steady and increase during the past few years. In addition to that, earlier this year, I think it was December or January, Council formalized an emergency interconnection agreement with the city of Arcadia. So that's an emergency connection that we have with Arcadia in case one of our wells goes down or we have a problem with our interconnection, that we can bring water in from the main basin through Arcadia's water distribution system. So our relationship with the city of Arcadia has increased tremendously over the last few years. We have a really good relationship with them now. Council also approved or directed staff to work with the city of Arcadia on a joint well. So that would give us a well in the main basin outside of our aquifer. So that would be another source of water. This project is going to benefit both agencies, and we're hoping that in the next 2 years, we're going to have access to water from the main basin. So when we look at our capital improvements, when I first started here, especially after 2013, we were looking at water leaks in the system. We had 300-400 leaks per year in the system. We were losing a tremendous amount of water. In 2017, Council approved us to complete a water system master plan to really identify and to find a way to tackle the issues that we were facing. The plan identified 32 areas in our water distribution system that had exceeded their useful life. And I'm happy to report that as of July of this year, we've replaced 10 of the top 13. And by the end of this year, we're looking to have completed 13 of the top 15 and well over 16,000 feet of new water main in our system. Next slide, please, James. So this is just a look at what we've done since we initiated that water system master plan. You see the first year we did 260,000, but when you look at 2018, 2019, that's a real pivotal year. That's when Council approved the new water rate structure. So in that new water rate structure, we included an infrastructure charge. So everybody gets, when they get their water bill, they see an infrastructure charge, and that money goes directly to replacing water mains and infrastructure. So since that year, we've been able to really make a big impact in our system. And you see the first year we had that infrastructure charge, we did 1.4 million. Last year we did 1.2. This year we budgeted 1.5. And the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District has indicated that they're looking at providing each of its member agencies up to $1 million in either a no interest or very low interest loan. So if that money is made available, we're looking at an investment in infrastructure in water pipes this year of up to $2.5 million. Another great accomplishment remember last year, Mayor Capocha asked me when we'd be done, and I told him that we were hoping to be done July of this year, and I was told to be careful about giving dates, but I'm happy to report that we finished the project a month ahead of schedule. So as of June 2020, every water meter in the city is now in part of our automated meter infrastructure. So what this means is that we can read every single meter in town really at the push of a button. Within a few minutes, we read every meter. This is going to allow us to go to monthly billing. We actually sent out our final bi-monthly bills on July 1st. So the bill that residents get in August will be, every resident will be billed for July's consumption. AMI also allows us to have analytics so that if a customer calls in and has a concern over their water bill, we can look at how their water use is trending and identify when leaks occurred and if leaks have been repaired. But what's more exciting is that every one of our residents now has access to this analytics through our customer portal. Residents can visit cityofsierramadre.com/AMI and create an account, and they can log in and manage their water use, and they can see how their water use is trending in near real time. The system uploads reads every 4 hours. The beauty of the system is that residents can set customized notifications and can be alerted if there's continuous use. So the days of I have a leak and I wasn't aware of it, those are gone. Everybody has the ability to log in, monitor, track, and be notified when there's a problem with leaks or continuous use. Next slide, please, James. So in 2015, Council approved Resolution 1567, and in that resolution, we established a leak forgiveness program. So just a little background. So in 2015 or before June of this year, we would read meters every 60 days. So if a resident had a leak, the day
Hey,
after.
Director Reynoso, can you hold for a minute? We've lost your audio.
Am I back? Hello? Oscar, am I back?
Yeah, we can't hear.
I can hear you, but it looks like the volume may have dropped. Stand by.
Mayor, if you can hear me, where did I drop off?
You're back, I think, now.
You're good, Jose.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Where did you lose me?
Well, just start with this
Okay.
slide, right about when you change the slides.
Okay, so in 2015, Council established a leak forgiveness program through Resolution 1567. And when we look back at why we introduced this leak forgiveness program, so we read meters. Everybody had 60 days of consumption on their water bill. So if we read the meter if a leak started the day after we read the water meter, a resident would go 59 days with a leak on their meter, and a lot of times they were unaware. We were in a drought state of emergency. That meant that the city of Sierra Madre was mandated by the state to reduce water use by over 30%. So every one of our residents had a water conservation target. If they went over these targets, they were subject to excess use charges. So 60 to 70 days later, when the customer got their water bill, there was this huge sticker shock of excess water use charges exceeding their target, and up to 59 days of continuous leak. So council brought in the leak forgiveness program because it was an unintended consequence. The reason we had the targets and the excess use was really to try to get people to cut back on water use, but not punish people for having a leak that they were not aware of. So we have this one-time leak forgiveness program, and it provided relief to a lot of our residents. And at this time, we were looking at, we started a pilot program for AMI because we saw in the future that AMI was going to be a way that we can empower our community to really manage their water consumption and track water usage. And James, you can go to the next slide. And so that future is here, right? So now we have that empowered community. Everybody can monitor their water use. The community can get continuous use notification, customized notifications when they have a water leak. We've eliminated excess water use charges from our billing structure. Targets have been eliminated from the billing structure. And the governor declared an end to the drought emergency. So everything that was put in place for the leak forgiveness program has been addressed, and there's really no need for a leak forgiveness program when we have all the tools for people to manage their water use and take charge of their water consumption. So on the consent calendar for your consideration is the repeal of Resolution 1567 to end the leak forgiveness program. Next slide, please. So the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District, as we know, since 1960, their primary goal, their primary objective is to provide supplemental replenishment water to each of its 4 member agencies. But for the city of Sierra Madre, they've done, and for the other agencies, they've done much more than that. For example, they gave us $1 million, they provided $1 million zero interest loan when we rebuilt the Miramonte reservoirs. They provided funding for the Grove reservoirs. They provided grants to install new irrigation and smart timers at all of our parks, at City Hall, at the schools. They participate in every one of our events and give out conservation information to our residents. They provide banners. And most recently, they provided a $1.8 million grant to pay for Sierra Madre's portion of the joint well capital cost with the city of Arcadia. In response to the current pandemic, the district acknowledges that cities have lost revenue in response to the pandemic, and they've offered each of its member agencies a $50,000 grant for water-related activities. So where we plan to use the $50,000 is currently the general fund subsidizes the low income rate. So we plan to use $10,000 to pay for the low income rate, and that will provide a savings to the general fund. In addition, we plan to set aside $5,000 as a pandemic relief fund, and administrative services has been working with some of our residents who have called to express that they're having issues due to the pandemic. So they're setting up a program, some qualifications, and they're going to provide some assistance to the community that needs it most. And then we want to set aside $35,000 to do some much needed improvements at the West Tunnel facility, some water treatment improvements. And again, every gallon of water that we take from the West Tunnel is a gallon that we don't have to pump out of the ground. So it's a really important project that we want to complete this year. And that really concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you have.
Hey, any questions from council?
I have a real quick one. It's probably going to be a short answer. Really good presentation, Director Reynoso. Are we getting any complaints about this AMI system?
We haven't had any complaints. I think the people, when they log in, they're really happy to be able to track their consumption. I think we're trending at about 400 users right in that area right now. We've sent out postcards. We've put up banners at Kirsten Court. We've put it out on social media, out on our newsletter. So we're really trying to get the word out to everybody, to give them this tool to really manage their water use.
That's great. So I'm sure it's been a game changer for us.
Hey, Councilmember Carabedian or Mayor Pro Tem?
Mayor Pro Tem, then I'll go.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to recognize the $2.5 million investment in this last year. And that's, when you compare it to the past few years, it's really tremendous. So I'm really thankful that we've, one, been able to invest that much, but two, been able to do that work. So congratulations to the team.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, well done on the presentation. The only question I had is how many folks are actually utilizing the online portal for AMI?
So the last time I checked, we were just under, I think it was 386, just under 400. I haven't checked in a week or so. So the numbers go up, a couple every week. So we're right around 400 right now.
Yeah, I think we should try to push more information to get people to start logging onto it, because I think people become a lot more water wise the more that they are, constantly looking at their billing and everything. So I don't know if we want to do a mailer or just keep it in the Village Vine or something like that, but
And
good job.
when we send out bills, we do inserts in the bills, and there's messages on the bills and informing residents. I think we have QR codes in there. But we are trying, we're using every avenue to really spread the message and let residents know that this is out there for them to use.
Great. Thank you.
And we are going to talk about that on, well, it's on the consent calendar, but we're getting rid of our excess water, forgiveness program. So this is very important that everybody understands that they have the ability to monitor excess usage. And, if you ignore this and you have a leak on your property, your fellow ratepayers are not going to subsidize you to pay for it. So you're on your own now. So we've given you the tools. So I suggest people look into this and take this seriously. And I do agree that if there's anything more we can do to get the word out, I really think we should pull out all the stops and make sure everybody understands this. But that being said, I mean, that presentation, I think it's missing a few huge accomplishments also, in that just a revision of the last round of the water rates, aside from the capital charge that is put in there, just a simplification of it to where we have just 2 tiers, and the higher tier just represents what we have to pay for additional water over and above what we have. But if we look back to where we were and the complaints we used to get, and how often we would deal with this at the council from my ratepayers, and just all the problems we've had over the years, I mean, it's really unthinkable how well the system is running now, thanks to you, Director Reynoso, and City Manager England and staff. So, I mean, this is just, again, looking back, this is just one of the things that I am most proud of, is just how our water system is working compared to what condition it was in the past. And of course, I got to give Councilmember Goss a lot of credit here too, because we served together on the water subcommittee. And it's nothing short of phenomenal where we are today. We hardly ever get complaints anymore. Our water, for the most part, except for a few instances, is clear, no brown water. The taste is good. I don't filter my water anymore. I drink it straight from the tap. And so I just can't say enough about what you guys have done. And I just want to thank you for it and appreciate your leadership and the hard work to get to this point. So again, good job.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so with that, shall we move on to the consent calendar? Madam City Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The first one is approval of approval of resolution 20-46 of the City Council of the City of Sierra Madre approving certain demands. B, consideration of cancellation of both regular August 2020 City Council meetings. C, authorization of change order number 1 for construction related changes for the Sierra Vista Park parking lot project. D, approval of resolution 20-49 to repeal City Council Resolution 15-67, setting excess water use penalty fee amount, directing staff to directly contact high water users, and providing penalty relief in order to expedite leak repairs. E, consideration of acceptance and appropriation of the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District grant funds. F was removed, so we're going to G, consideration of reappointments to the city boards and commissions. H, consideration of approval of resolution 20-48 declaring July 2020 as Parks Make Lives Better Month. And that concludes the consent items.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about items on the consent calendar?
Not for me.
Okay, but again, just want to mention that oh, wait, yeah, we do have to do public comment too. So yeah, so at this point, we'll turn it over to public comment. Is there any question or comments from the public?
And Mr. Mayor, before we do that, I think we just want to make clear that for those calling in about the changes in the commission, potential changes in the commission number and the terms, that is not this item, the consent.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, is there anybody calling in?
Mr. Mayor, it does not appear anyone called in for public comment.
Okay, we do have a public comment via email from Miles Prince, who is our director for our board member on our San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District that represents the city of Sierra Madre. So I'll read his, and I do thank him for making it short and sweet. I would like to thank the city for so promptly and creatively putting our recent grant to work. I appreciated Jose sharing the city's ideas at our board meeting yesterday. I think Sierra Madre is providing a great example for our other member cities in how to utilize the funds. The city's prompt action makes it easier for us on the board to champion these types of programs and initiatives in the future. So that's from Miles Prince, who is our board member on our San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District. So Mr. Prince, I do thank you. You're doing a great job on the board, and you're a big part of the success of Sierra Madre too. So thanks for the comment. Okay, so with that, there's no other comments. Any other comments from staff or, from council on the consent calendar? Okay, we'll call for a vote, Madam City Clerk.
Well, I'll move to approve the consent
Oh.
calendar as presented, Mayor.
Sorry.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor Kaposha,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erzmende,
Aye.
Councilmember Goss,
Aye.
Councilmember Harabedian.
Yes.
The motion to approve consent items 1 through H without F was passed by a unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you, Madam City Clerk. Okay, next we have a public hearing, and this is for a consideration of adoption of ordinance 1428, amending chapter 17.34, affordable housing. So to conform to the state density bonus law. So who's going to take that?
Mayor, we'll have Director Gonzalez and our Deputy City Attorney make this presentation.
Okay, great.
Great, and James, will I be able to go through the slides, or is that something you're gonna have to do on your end?
I will advance the slides for you.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, thank you, everyone. We can go straight to the first slide, and I can explain why this is before you today. So the housing element update requires a compliant density bonus ordinance as part of the affordable housing portion of the housing element. In addition, the city applied for and received SB2 grant funds. And the SB2 grant funds are supposed to be used, among other reasons, to update planning documents. So we're using the funds to update our density bonus ordinance. Next slide. An amendment is sorely overdue. So the density bonus ordinance can currently be found in Sierra Madre Municipal Code, Chapter 17.34. The chapter was last updated in 2004. Since then, there have been 16 amendments to the density bonus law. So the density bonus law, as it's written today in the municipal code, bears little resemblance to the density bonus law under state law. Next slide. So just some background to understand why the legislator is pursuing, it has been amending this density bonus law so much and trying to incentivize housing. So according to the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies and the Turner Center for Housing Innovation at UC Berkeley, the cost of a housing project, if we're talking about just raw land and developing a multifamily property, it is roughly according to this pie chart here. So land costs are about 10 to 20% throughout California. So in Sierra Madre, it's probably closer to 20% of the actual cost of the entire project. Soft costs, which include financing as well as the costs that we impose on developers, for example, the permitting process, is somewhere between 20 and 30% of a project. And the hard costs, that's the labor and material to build the project, is about 50 to 70% of the project. And so the legislator has chosen a couple of different options, or has advanced a couple of different methods to address the housing crisis. Those include establishing housing authorities, providing public subsidies, reducing regulatory limitations, providing regulatory incentives, which the density bonus law is, and allowing cities to impose regulatory mandates, as well as imposing regulatory mandates on cities through the housing element process. Next slide. So we can just skip through, you can keep going. Yep, that's fine right there. So just a quick background on the density bonus law. It was enacted by Governor Brown during his first term in 1979. It can be found in Government Code section 65915 through 65918. The original density bonus law just had a density bonus provision. And just to explain what density bonus is, density is units per acre. So a density bonus awards additional units per acre if a certain number of affordable housing units are built. Now, the modern density bonus law includes a density bonus, but it includes in addition concessions and incentives, which we'll talk about, waivers and development standards, and a reduced parking ratio. Next slide. So you just click through this slowly. So this is how a density bonus project is processed. A developer requests a density bonus for a housing development consisting of 5 or more residential units. So it has to be a minimum of 5 units in a mixed use or residential zone. So like not an industrial zone or a commercial zone that doesn't allow housing. The developer has to agree to record a 55-year affordability covenant on a certain number of units. Next slide. To construct a threshold number of affordable senior or qualifying housing. I'll talk about what those are. Or you can donate land for affordable housing. So basically, you get a density bonus if you build a certain number of affordable units, or you donate land for the purpose of the construction of affordable units. Next slide. So here are the eligibility thresholds to qualify for a density bonus, an incentive, or a concession. At a minimum, you need to have at least 5% of the units available to very low-income households, or at least 10% of the units available for low-income households, or 10% of the units available for a common interest development for moderate income households, and a common interest development would be like condos. You can have market rate senior citizen housing. Senior citizen, in this case, is defined as someone 55 years or more. And that project has to have at least 35 dwelling units. Or you can have at least 10% of units for very low income transitional foster youth or disabled veterans or homeless persons, or at least 20% of the units are for low income students, which we don't really have in Sierra Madre. Next slide. So those are the minimum thresholds. Those minimum thresholds are reflected in that second row. But the density bonus is awarded on a sliding scale. And so the density bonus here, you go from, for very low income units, you go from 20% all the way up to 35%. 35 is really the traditional cutoff for for the greatest amount of density bonus a city is required to provide to a developer. Next slide. So what's affordable housing? So affordable housing is tied to, it says average median income. It should be area median income. That's AMI. And the AMI for Los Angeles County is $73,100. So when we talk about an extremely low income household, that's 0 to 30% of 73,000. When we talk about a very low income household, that's 30 to 50% and so on. Next slide. So what does the most recent state law do? The most recent state law that was passed that amended the density bonus or density bonus law really applies to developments that are 100% affordable. Keep going. Keep going. So if it's at 100% affordability, 80 to 100% of that affordable, 80 to 100% of the affordable units need to be at the extremely low, very low, or low income levels. A maximum of 20% can be at the moderate income levels. And if that's satisfied, then you get an 80% density bonus. And I'm going to provide an example so folks can see what this is like. And if you're within half a mile of a major transit stop, then there's actually no limit, no maximum control on density, but the city of Sierra Madre is not within a half mile of a major transit stop, so that last element doesn't really apply to us. So here's an example. If you have a housing project with 100 units, and 80 of those units are for low-income households, and 20% are for moderate-income households, then you're entitled to an 80% density bonus, which means you get an additional 64 units on top of your 100. So now you have 164 deed-restricted affordable units. That's what the new housing law did. Again, this doesn't really apply to Sierra Madre. This is more something you'd find in the city of Los Angeles or in San Francisco or some of the larger, more metropolitan cities. But it's just something to be aware of. Next slide. So we talked about a density bonus. Now I quickly want to mention what an incentive or a concession is. You can keep going through these, James. There's two more. And so really what an incentive or a concession is it's generally a reduction in site development standards or some kind of modification to the zoning code to permit the housing. Sometimes it can be approval of mixed use zoning in conjunction with housing development if the inclusion of commercial, office, or industrial uses will reduce the cost of the housing project. And in certain cases, it can be other regulatory incentives or concessions that aren't specifically outlined by the state law. Next slide. So depending on the affordability of the project, you get a certain number of incentives and concessions. So I won't go through all of them. You can see what the minimum thresholds are to qualify for the various number of incentives and concessions. But I'll just note that under the new state law, you can have a maximum of 4 incentives or concessions. Eligibility for waivers. So you are entitled, if you meet the threshold, you're entitled to a density bonus and you're entitled to an incentive or a concession. You aren't necessarily entitled to a waiver. You only get a waiver if you get a density bonus or an incentive or a concession, and you have to meet a number of criteria. But if compliance with the development standard would physically preclude construction of a housing development utilizing the density bonus and concession or incentives, the applicant may submit a proposal for a waiver or reduction of those development standards. There is, unlike the density bonus or the incentives and concessions, there is no maximum limit on the number of waivers an applicant may request. So a waiver only applies to development standards. So I'll explain what those are next. So development standard are those objective standards related to housing. So like I'm sure you're familiar with all of these. Density, height, parking ratio, setbacks, floor area ratio, lot coverage, open space requirements, minimum lot sizes. These are objective development standards that can be waived to accommodate a project if the project cannot proceed without them. assuming you qualify for the density bonus. So there are a limited number of reasons under state law that would permit the reviewing body to reject a density bonus, an incentive, concession, or waiver. I'm sorry, I said density bonus. I mean, a limited number of reasons to reject an incentive, concession, or a waiver. And that includes if it does not result in an identifiable and actual cost reduction, or it would have a specific adverse impact on public health or safety, or on historical resources. Next slide. And as stated before, if you qualify for a density bonus, you also qualify for a parking ratio that's set by state law. And these are the various parking ratios. They become more generous if you live closer to transit, to a major transit stop is the term. Again, there is no major transit stop in Sierra Madre, so those 0.5 standards wouldn't really apply. So that's the end of my presentation. This did go before the Planning Commission because it's an amendment to our zoning code. And what the Planning Commission proposed amending were the following three things. First, they proposed increasing the density bonus award for housing developments containing very low income units by increasing the minimum award from 20% to 25%, and from the maximum award for very low income units from 35% to 50%. So what that means is it's difficult for the city of Sierra Madre to get very low income, to get developers to build very low income units in the city. So by increasing the density bonus, we're creating more incentives for developers to create those types of units in the city so we can satisfy our RENA numbers when that comes due. The second proposed amendment is increasing the density bonus award for housing developments containing lower income units by increasing the maximum award from 35% to 40%. Again, this is just an acknowledgement that in addition to very low income units, it's also difficult to build low income units. So they've increased the density bonus to incentivize that type of construction. And lastly, they've lowered the density bonus. They proposed lowering the density bonus eligibility threshold for senior citizen housing development from a minimum of 35 units to 5 units. And that's in recognition of the fact that you don't really get a lot of 35 plus unit developments in the city of Sierra Madre. And if we want to incentivize senior housing in the city, it's probably best to award some kind of density bonus for projects that are a minimum of 5 units. And it could be, so just a minimum of 5 units in any project greater than 5. So that's my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Any questions from council?
Thank you for the report, Assistant City Attorney Alex. Do we know of any other cities that have amended the state code and have made it a little bit more lenient than what the state is recommending?
Yeah, so the state law, the density bonus law actually permits cities to introduce density bonuses and incentives and concessions that are more generous than what the state law allows. I know the city of Pasadena has created a density bonus ordinance that I think provides something like what we did, about 50%. It's like a 50% density bonus for both low income and very low income housing, if I'm not mistaken. So by no means are we alone in this. Many cities, Santa Monica has done the same thing. So many cities that want to incentivize low income housing do this.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? I just have one on just that graph you showed early in the presentation where the soft costs are 20 to 30% land, 10 to 20%, and hard construction costs 50 to 70%. What is that, a nationwide study? That doesn't sound right. Is that California?
That's California wide. Yeah, I know. I was surprised too when I saw it actually, but That's from the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies and the Turner Center for Housing Innovation at UC Berkeley. And they were just looking at how the development market in California. And that's partly informed by the fact that both, I mean, housing prices have increased, but the cost to build housing has also increased due to the tariffs that have caused the price for materials to soar.
Yeah. I wonder what that percentage would be here in Sierra Madre. I'm sure it's at the upper end of that 10 to 20% and probably even higher.
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay, no, I don't have any other questions. Okay, so shall we open it up for this? Again, is a public hearing. So with that, I will open the public hearing and hopefully we've got some comments from the public on it. Yeah, just a reminder to the audience too is if you're interested in commenting, you can go ahead and call in before we're done with the discussion. That way it'll be queued up and ready to go and we won't have to wait for people to call in. And again, a reminder to mute your sound when you do get the okay from Oscar.
Mr. Mayor, it does not appear that we have any callers for public comment on this item.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for consideration. Any comments or discussion?
I think, look, thank you for the presentation. I think the Planning Commission did a good job here, going above the state limits in my mind, just to try to incentivize a little bit more of this type of building. Because we just historically haven't seen much of it. So I'm in agreement with the Planning Commission here.
Okay. Councilmember Goss or Mayor Pro Tem?
I really have no insights here. I feel like it's pretty cut and dried. I agree with Councilmember Harabedian. I think the Planning Commission's done about all they can do on this.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just say at one time I would have been against increasing beyond what was required by the state, but it's just absolutely the right thing to do. From my understanding, it's not going to, it's not a significant incentive to where we're going to get a big rush from developers to build low or low income housing here in Sierra Madre. I think it was a good suggestion by the Planning Commission to do that, and I think it does also show good faith that we're trying to do our share to help with the housing crisis in California. So yeah, so I'm in agreement with it. So. Okay, so no other comments. Do we have a motion?
I'll move for approval as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, Madam City Clerk?
Yes, Mayor Kaposha,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi,
Aye.
Councilmember Goss,
Aye.
Councilmember Harabedian.
Aye.
The motion to approve the adoption of ordinance 1428 as presented was passed by a unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's get on to discussion item number 1. And this is our discussion on the commissions.
Mayor, our administrative analyst Jennifer Peterson will be giving this presentation.
Okay. Is her sound on?
My apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. So for your consideration this evening, We have the draft ordinance as directed from the June 23rd City Council meeting. This includes the changes directed by council, which include the removal of references to inactive commissions, revisions to make member numbers, term lengths and limits consistent, and revisions to the required number of applications for council to fill a vacancy. I would also like to add that in chapter 2.16, referring to the Library Board of Trustees, as a point of clarification, the language shall read, no member of the Library Board of Trustees may serve simultaneously on either the Friends of the Library or the Library Foundation or any body that regularly exchanges funds. We added simultaneously in there for clarification. The city recognizes the value of these advisory boards as a voice of the people. However, it's become increasingly difficult to fill vacancies on the commissions, and that's resulted as the cancellation of meetings due to lack of quorum. As an example, in the past 18 months, the Community Services Commission has canceled 7 meetings due to lack of quorum. And reducing the number of members, council is actually making it easier for the commissions to reach a quorum and have their meetings. In an attempt to fill and maintain all 7 seats, the council does allow non-Sierra Madre residents to serve on various commissions. And at this time, there are 2 commissioners serving that do not live or work in Sierra Madre. About 8 years ago, City Council recognized the difficulty in recruiting applicants to serve on various advisory bodies and created a volunteer coordinator. In 2017, the council adopted the current process for obtaining applications in an effort to make it easier to appoint commissioners. The previous process was 3 applications for 1 vacancy, 4 applications for 2 vacancies, 5 applications for 3 or more vacancies. This process was cumbersome and lent to delays in appointments to fill open seats. So the council repealed the old process and approved a more simpler process of collecting only 3 applications, regardless of the number of vacancies. At our last meeting, Mayor Capocha inquired about other cities' commission policies. And in comparison, I provided a table for you. Sierra Madre has more commissions than almost all of our neighboring cities, with more commissioners who serve longer terms, all of which provides us, the community, more opportunity for the citizens who desire to participate and for their voices to be heard. This concludes my report, and I'm available to answer your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Peterson. What questions? I don't have any questions. We discussed it
I don't
last.
either.
Okay. Okay, so let's open it up for public comment. Now, again, I have a number of letters. And for those of you who wrote the letters, I would much, much, much rather you call in with your own voice, tell us what you think. If not, I'm going to read your letters, but I may skip over some of the stuff and try to get the essence because again, some of them are a little bit long and I just really don't want to take the time. Just we know what your point is and we can move on from there. So if you've sent in a letter, I would again appreciate if you would just call in and just read it yourself. If not, I will go ahead and read what you sent in.
Good evening, caller. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. You may proceed.
Deb Sheridan, Sierra Madre, and you can skip over my public comment. But I just wanted to mention at the June 23rd meeting, you began the discussion of reducing the number of commissioners from 7 to 5 at 10:30. And I am calling foul on that. Wasn't there a proclamation passed several years ago that a new issue would not be started before 10 p.m.? This is such a bad idea right in the middle of a pandemic. We need an opportunity for more residents to be heard, not fewer. I am officially termed out of the Community Services Commission so I can't even attend the meetings. Pat Alcorn attended several meetings once her time was over, and she offered valuable insight into the background of several issues under discussion. But as far as I know, there's no way for me to attend. When I joined the commission 6 years ago, we were mostly older. Now there are 3 Little League parents on the commission. Both are fine, but we really need different perspectives, and reducing a commission from 7 to 5 is the wrong way to go about this. Also, in the past, I've served on several committees that no longer exist. And that was a great way at the time to get involved and to give back to the city that we all love. And I also might add, see what hard work our city staff actually puts in. It was a real eye-opener, to tell you the truth. And I do know of 2 excellent applicants who would love to join a commission for which there is no room right now. The simple act of reducing applications from 3 to 2 will help tremendously in selecting new commissioners. And I was among our other commissioners. We were very frustrated when our meetings got canceled, but we had an opening. We would have had a quorum, but we only had 1 applicant who really wanted to be on the commission. She's on the commission now, but she could not be appointed. So this will help tremendously. But I want to say, too, that at the very least, please do not reduce the Planning Commission to 5 members. There are so many important issues coming up, and we need all the brain power that we can get. And I thank you for your time, and I'm still sorry about you, Mayor Harabedian, ex-Mayor Harabedian and Mayor Kaposha. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Sheridan. Okay.
Good evening, caller. Please state
Hello.
your name and city of residence for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. You may proceed.
Okay. This is Heather Allen again. I live on Grove Street. I'm calling the council tonight because I'm very concerned about this ordinance. I'm very concerned because you're basically taking away the residents' rights to make important decisions that will affect the quality of their life here in Sierra Madre. And I feel that going from 7 seats to 5, that could down the line lead 5 seats to 3. It's setting up a precedence that I don't like, and this is the sort of thing that, it can lead to totalitarianism at some point. We are facing a huge development project at the monastery, and we have these state housing numbers that we're dealing with, and any number of issues that we may be facing down the line with COVID, et cetera, and how it affects the businesses. If the city wants to give the impression that they welcome residents and want transparency, and if the council truly values the residents' voices, I feel that you will protect those seats and not reduce the number of seats. I don't think any of the commission should be reduced, but especially not the Planning Commission, and especially not at this time. This is just a very bad idea, and I urge you to vote no. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Allen.
Good evening, caller. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. If you're listening to the meeting live, please mute your feed to avoid feedback. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. You may proceed.
David Gordon, Sierra Madre. I have every sympathy with the council because it's very difficult to find people who are prepared to do it, and therefore it seems logical to reduce the number of seats that you have to fill. But I think this is a sort of a part of a wider problem that the city has. It has a problem of communicating with its citizens, and it's very difficult to do that. The local newspaper has a hard time to get circulation, And the traditional means of communicating with citizens are sort of drying up. People are spending more and more time at home watching screens, as I'm doing now. And I think that the solution is for the city to engage much more in an attempt to reach out to citizens and to seek for volunteers for these city bodies. And indeed, most of the volunteer organizations in cities also have a problem in recruiting volunteers and board members. I think it's partly because people are so busy and so committed to their domestic life and their jobs and so on and so forth. But I think the attempt needs to be made to reach out. One way of doing so would be to send one of those cards to every single household, informing people of what volunteer opportunities there are. And we desperately need people to stand for city council. We need people on the Historic Society, the Women's Club, all of them, and the Playhouse. We all need more volunteers. We at the Playhouse did actually appoint a volunteer coordinator, and that has had a pretty dramatic effect on finding volunteers. One needs to put effort into doing it, and that needs to come from a city employee. It's all very well having a volunteer coordinator for the city, but you need city resources to do that. City views need to be revamped. We have to be much more aggressive in social media. We have to market the city, not in terms of saying how wonderful it is, but to market the fact that the governance of the city does depend on people stepping forward to fill these vacancies. There are people out there, they just don't know of the opportunities that exist, and they haven't been prodded into doing something about it. So before taking this quite reasonable step in the circumstances, I would urge the city to do something much more dramatic and sophisticated in terms of getting its messages out, including, for example, the use of the new water meter and things like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Good evening, caller. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. You may proceed.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. This is Gary Hood of North Baldwin. I did send in an email, but being that I'm here, I want to say that I pretty much mirror what Deb Sheraton had said. Bottom line, I think it's very important to keep 7 members on the Planning Commission, as we do have some very serious considerations to be made in the further development of our city. So with that being said, thank you for listening, and please do consider maintaining at least 7 members on the Planning Commission. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hood.
Good evening, caller. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. You may proceed.
Just a minute. I can't hear you. Hi. I already emailed and I wasn't expecting to call in. But this is Karen Rowinski and I live in Sierra Madre. And I sent an email. I said most of what Deb has said, but let me just look at it for 1 second. What I have experienced, I've been on the commission for about 1.5 years, and what I've experienced that I've really appreciated the diversity on the commission. It is so nice to have different opinions coming from different people, different cultures. And I'm afraid if we went down to 5 people, it just seems like we wouldn't have that kind of diversity. And being someone who's here a relatively short period of time, it really seems to me, people talk about it, Sierra Madre not being such a diverse community, but it certainly seems to me that I feel it, and I think it's important to show it in our government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rowinski.
Good evening, caller. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comment. You may proceed.
Hi, this is Ann Chesterman. Thank you very much for hearing us tonight. And I sent an email, but just to simplify, I very much ditto David Gordon's comments. I've always asked council candidates to make sure that the public is reached out to, that we make sure as a community we're all on the same page and that we are all informed. I think that's got to be a precursor to establishing any permanent policies. So thank you very much, and carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chesterman.
Mr. Mayor, there are currently no more callers for public comment.
Okay, so I want to thank everybody for commenting. You just made my job a lot easier because that eliminated about 3/4 of the emails that I had to read here. So thank you very much. Okay, I've also got one from Darlene Papa. She says, I oppose changing the municipal code to reduce the number of commissioners from 7 to 5. Over the past several years, the number of committees has been reduced, and now scaling back commissions from 7 to 5 members gives the residents even fewer opportunities to be heard and to be involved in city planning and functioning. In this time of a pandemic, it is crucial that we residents have every opportunity to have our voices heard. If you can get the word out better, maybe a robocall and even a call from a real person or a text or email, etc., while also making it easier to sign up, maybe that would generate more candidates and more interest. Sierra Madre is a great town and deserves to have a diversity of ideas to make it even better. Thank you for all you do. Okay, we also have one from Tracy Verhoeven. I believe you are voting on bringing the commissions down from 7 to 5. Although I understand the reasons, I also feel that it may limit new ideas and may hamper those who want to get involved. Personally, I would like to get back and be involved in our lovely town. Therefore, I've submitted my applications for both the community services and ENER commissions. I apologize that I was under the assumption that I had till the end of June to apply. I applied on June 29th. If for some reason this changes, I would like to interview and have attached my resume to this email. Although it might not fit the criteria perfectly in regards to the ENER, my passion and career experience is valuable for either one or both committees. And I think we might have had one come in right before the start of the council meeting that I did not have a chance to process. Let me just check real quick. Okay, let's see. Okay, I got Heather Allen. Amy Watson. She says, I prefer that we make a greater effort to recruit local citizens to serve before making this change. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Another one came in from Virginia Forrest. I'm concerned that reducing the number of people in our city commissions will reduce representation of a variety of Sierra Madre citizens. I urge you to make a greater effort to educate the public about this need and search for more participants before voting to reduce the number of seats. And we also had one from former Mayor Robert Stockley, but it's for discussion item number 1, but I don't think we're discussing the library foundation. So I'm not going to read that one because I don't think that one applies to this. So, okay, so with that, that's all the public comment we have. So with that, we'll bring it back to council.
Mr. Mayor, just a real quick point of clarification on that point. Is the current proposed ordinance, though, does that address the library board, the foundation, and the library board of trustees? Mr. City Manager, you're on mute.
That's correct, Councilmember Harabedian. The comment from former Mayor Stockley would apply to this topic.
Okay, well then I'm going to back up and open the public comment again and read Mr. Stockley's concern. Okay, our city library has benefited from decades of support from the Friends of the Sierra Madre Library, from the recent Sierra Madre Library Foundation, was established to foster major giving for the benefit of our public libraries and capital campaigns and establishment of permanent endowments. Both of these organizations are staffed by dedicated volunteers who contribute time, talent, and money to support their ongoing efforts for the public good. The city has been well served by the library trustees who, I am guessing here in parentheses, have all or nearly all been members of the Friends. This is your most likely pool of future candidates for the Board of Trustees. And bear in mind that not one of the board members of either organization receives any financial benefit for their tireless, impassioned work. So it seems a proposed amendment to the city ordinance governing who can serve on the library Board of Trustees is a poorly constructed solution to a problem that does not exist. I encourage legislative restraint by asking that you decline to amend the municipal code with this needless and unfounded suggestion, especially at this time when we should be fostering civic participation to reinforce our strained social fabric. And again, that is from former Mayor Robert Stockley. So what he's referring to is the proposal that we restrict the Board of Trustees from being seated on a board member, as a board member on either the Library Foundation or the Friends of the Library. Okay, so with that, what discussion or comments?
Well, I guess I'll go first. I don't really see a compelling reason here to, I mean, first of all, the idea that we're going to take a commission down from 7 to 5, we're actually making it easier to get a quorum. We've had some problems with our commissioners not showing up to meetings. And when you have 7 people on a board, your quorum is higher. So I just don't believe that it follows that this is more democratic to have more people there. I also don't take the idea that appointed commissions are a reflection of democracy. I mean, we have council elections this fall, and it seems to me that that is where the focus of our democratic activism ought to be. Because after all, it's the elected officials that will be making these appointments and voting on the reappointments of them. So it seems to me the number of the commission does not add up as a matter of, to me, doesn't make us more or less democratic. I'm not stuck on this. I mean, if you guys want to go back to 7 on the planning commission, I'd support it. But I think making a more manageable number of people is also got a pretty good, it's also a good idea. And therefore, that's where I was in the last meeting. I'm not changing on that. I think 5 members seems reasonable. 2 terms seems reasonable. 4-year term seems reasonable to me. Where I have a little bit of an issue here is the language that former Mayor Stockley is alluding to. And I know this is kind of a hot potato. It's very sensitive for anybody involved in the Library Board of Trustees, the Library Foundation, and the Friends of the Library. Because I think that what we're trying to do here is we're solving a problem that doesn't exist. If there are funds being exchanged between these boards would not exchange these funds if that was unlawful. So I have no knowledge that any funds are going to be exchanged between these boards in an unlawful manner. So from a conflict of interest point of view, I don't believe that, the city attorney can correct me, but I don't believe that we are aware of any unlawful conflict of interest involving these various boards. To me, if there were such, I would be strongly in favor of this provision. So I would like to get some a response to that from our assistant city attorney, if we could.
Yeah, so at this point in time, I don't believe any unlawful transaction has taken place between the boards at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Goss, one point of clarification also. At the meeting where this was discussed with the Board of Trustees, staff said we would make this recommendation to the City Council. But when the Board of Trustees voted, they actually voted to make this recommendation unanimously to City Council. that no current trustees would serve on either of the mentioned boards or any that they regularly exchange funds with.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I appreciate you, reminding the public on that. I just don't want this to be seen by people on the foundation board or in the Friends of the Library as us in some way having some sense that they are doing anything inappropriate. It's far from it. They're among our most prolific volunteers, longtime public volunteers in the city. So, I mean, as long as that message is loud and clear, I mean, I can support this, but it was just kind of stuck in here along with all these terms. And I just thought it was a little bit, I think that's what probably happened with former Mayor Stockley. I think he saw it kind of thrown into something where maybe it didn't belong, but I'd like to hear what my colleagues think about it.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with a lot of that. I mean, I think you made some good points there, Councilmember Goss. I guess where I am is, one, I appreciated all the comments that our citizens made. I think there's some really smart people there whose opinions I really respect. So it always makes me pause when we get feedback like that. It makes me wonder whether, maybe we're one, not doing the right thing, or two, doing the right thing at the wrong time. And I think maybe it's somewhat more of the latter in my view. I think that I don't have a huge issue staying with the number of commissioners we have right now, and I don't have a huge issue reducing it. I think going to 4 years is fine. I think adopting the measure of appointing once we get 2 and not 3 is fine. Maybe it feels just a little rushed right now, reducing from 7 to 5 for a few of the commissions in the midst of COVID-19 when there isn't as much transparency and folks can't come out. So, I guess my gut, having heard everything, is to maybe wait on this, but I'm kind of with Councilmember Goss. I'm not really stuck on this to where, I feel that strongly either way. I mean, look, I think that it would definitely be more efficient to probably have 5 so that we can fill spots easier, and it would probably make things a little bit more smooth. That being said, I don't necessarily think that we need to act now. So I'm sort of punting because I want to hear what the mayor and the mayor pro tem have to say. But yeah, this is a tough one. Look, I think there's some good points made. So as for the library, I'll just say quickly, the library board and the foundation, I think that I'll echo Councilmember Goss. I hope, and I don't think that this was meant to, cast any aspersions on any of the members up there to say anything, that was done was wrong or illegal. I get the point that we're trying to eliminate the appearance of a conflict of interest, and I can appreciate that. Now, I do think that having board members that serve on both the foundation and potentially all 3, the trustees, the foundation, and the board of trustees could be an issue when there are funds that are going to be transferred from each of those organizations. And I just think that regardless of whether the money's being spent correctly or, as it always is, I just think that it could raise issues of perception. So I guess I'm a little bit more inclined to be okay with this. If we need to, to Councilmember Goss's point, maybe have this as a separate discussion item so that people kind of get a little bit more time to think about it, I'm fine with that too. So, yeah, interested to hear what my other 2 colleagues have to say.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
So I'll start backwards since we ended on the library piece. I think, I don't think it's a matter of saying you can't be involved in all of the 3 entities or the 3 bodies. I think the question is, when you serve as a voting member or a decision maker in one body, and then it's a transfer to another body that you're also serving on the board on, I think there could be potential conflict there. So either it's don't serve on the boards simultaneously at the same time, and you can serve at different periods of time, and or recuse yourselves from items where you might be a recipient of funds that you are making a decision for. And I think, it's not just a matter of the library. I think that could be with any of our boards where you're making a decision of money being transferred to a board that you're also on. So I'm actually fine with the way the language is here. Maybe a little bit more clarification on adding the word simultaneous in here would be helpful. So with the commissions, at our last discussion, I really was thinking planning commission can kind of be seen differently because of the complexity of what they're dealing with, and really having understanding of what our ordinances are and how they can play a role in that. With the other commissions, I was fine with the 5. But I think what's really important is to understand why we're doing this. And one of the reasons why is there was inconsistency in how we were practicing and what was in the language. So one, we needed to clean it up, be consistent with what we're practicing and what we have in writing. But also really the issue of, we had a hard time getting applicants in a lot of these commissions. And I hear the message about outreach and marketing and volunteering, and can more be done? Possibly, but I think there are many avenues that our staff have done. I think as city council have done. I reach out to colleagues when I think they would be or friends that could be a good match for a certain commission, and some have applied that way. But at the end of the day, we need an active body that can make decisions and that can act nimbly, in a nimble way. Nimbly, I don't think is a real word. But the problem sometimes with 1 is to get 7 commissioners, but 2 is to get quorum. And as you've heard, we have many meetings canceled because quorum wasn't met. But 3 is really thoughtful discussion and having 5 people on a body. We have 5 in city council. I think we're very effective in what we do. We get diverse opinions, we get different perspectives, and we're 4 now. So, but I think you still get that value of 5 people. So I'm not convinced that all of the commissions need to be at 7. I also did a quick check. So thank you. I know to staff, they were able to provide some commission information about some surrounding cities. I didn't get a chance to do too much, but I saw for San Gabriel, they have planning commission of 5. I saw La Cañada has 5. I saw Alhambra has 10, and I know someone that serves on there, and they share how difficult it is to get any work done with 10 people on a planning commission. So I definitely wouldn't go in that direction. But without all that being said, I do feel that 5 is fine in all the other commissions. I would like to make sure we have engaged people that are competitive when it comes to applying to the commission. Are we moving too fast, to Councilmember Harabedian's point? I mean, possibly it feels rushed, but this has been an ongoing issue for quite a while. All that being said, planning is the one commission I would consider 7. But again, one of those challenges has been how we can get things done. We've had some things that we've presented to the Planning Commission that we were hoping could move a little faster, and it's wonderful that we have different perspectives and there's deep discussion about it, but we also don't want it to the deep discussions to be an obstacle in getting things moving.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, first of all, I want to respond to a couple of comments too. Ms. Sheridan, you called foul. I would say this was not an intentional foul, but you're correct. We did decide a long time ago that we would not start any new items after 10:30. And I'm the mayor, I should know better, but I forgot all about it. So my apologies for that one. Okay, to Ms. Allen, I don't think this is a test if we truly value input from the community. I mean, I have conversations with people all the time about decisions we make on the council. We do truly value what people add to the community, and I just don't think a test from going from 7 to 5 has anything to do with how much we value our members of the community. And certainly there is just no possibility that this is going to lead to a catastrophe where we only have 3 on a commission. Hey, Mr. Gordon, you've made some very good points there, but look, I'm going to tell you, having been around for a long time and served on a commission myself many, many years ago, commissioners used to recruit people to serve on commissions. The city was like totally not involved, and it worked pretty well. And, we have, I forgot all about that, but we do have a volunteer coordinator that I don't think anybody's really aware of. And, that's really not effective. We know that. But I am really not in favor of taking our overworked staff and giving them a new assignment to try to recruit people. Believe me, our staff, the most out of our meager staff, more so than any other city around us. And frankly, this is just not their responsibility to do this. I would say with social media, we do a pretty good job. Our Village Vine is a wonderful newsletter, and it's shocking to me how few people sign up for distribution on that. But yet one of the Facebook Sierra Madre groups, I believe, has 2,500 members in that group. And I'm really just flabbergasted that people are not willing to pay attention a little bit more on their own to what's happening with the city and come forward. I mean, I know these openings have been linked to those groups and we still don't get responses. So I really don't understand how we could possibly do more without incurring more expense, which is a burden to all the taxpayers. So that's just been a source of frustration for me since the 8 years I've been on the council, is how difficult it is to get the word out to people. So I don't think we're going to make any big changes there that's going to result in getting a lot more people to apply for the commissions. So again, they're all good comments. And, the thing I had a discussion with Mayor Pro Tem about this is when I told her earlier that I was not going to run for council again. This is, Council Member Harabidi and I are going to step off in a few months here. And it's really going to be for certain that Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi and Councilmember Goss are going to be on the council, as well as 3 new people now. So I'm willing to vote either way, but I really believe that the best thing to do is to reduce all the commissions to 5. And I do appreciate the arguments for the Planning Commission, but as I've said before, maybe we'd get more done too with just 7. Certainly with 5 people, but certainly with 7, you might catch 1 or more 2 things, but believe me, the people that we have on the commission are going to catch the major things that matter. And certainly if you're doing your job, you are communicating with people in the community as well and getting feedback. And I don't think it's going to make a big difference to have 2 additional people on the commission as far as the quality of the decisions that are going to be made. We look at all the cities around us. Yeah, there's a few that have 7, but even a city like South Pasadena that has very active commissions is working with 5 members and they're doing quite well. That's the one I'm most familiar with. So I'm just having trouble buying the argument that 7 makes a big difference over 5. And if we really want to prove the point, we should go down to 5 and see how that's working. And then Councilmember Goss and Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi can bring this up again in a year or 2 if things are not working out well. So I'm going to defer with how Councilmember Goss and Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi want to go here, and I will vote whichever way they want. But you have my opinion, and my recommendation is that we go down to 5.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks a lot.
I have a question. I'm not sure who can answer this, maybe Director Gonzalez or maybe City Manager England. But I know for the Planning Commission, we talked about, we still will have 6 for another, is it for another year or for another 2 years?
We will have 6 for at least another year, to 2021.
And even with the Planning Commission, if I remember right, it was recently, well, the last time we had 2 applicants, the time before that, we only had 1 applicant.
Yeah. I mean, seriously.
He's a good one, but I mean, it could have been the other way where you have 1 person that's willing to serve and you're adding them just because you have a position.
If I could add something, we're talking about democracy. Democracy is not served when there's no competition. The only way that we really get a true choice in anything we choose democratically is when there's a vigorous, robust competition that forces all sides to reckon with what they believe, what their track record is, and what they would do. And it seems to me that until we can get when we have 4 or 5 people show up for a couple of positions and we listen to them, we interview them, and we have a debate about it, until we have, and we've had a few of those in my 6 years, but really not many. Usually it's 1 or 2 people show up, and it's, we usually get everybody seated or maybe send one person home. I just don't see that that necessarily guarantees us anything.
So one thing I would consider is, again, I'm fine with the other commission, all of the commissions going to 5, and with Planning Commission, Councilmember Goss, maybe it's up to you and I to make sure that within the next 10, 11 months that we can take a look at it again, and maybe in May, and then determine whether we want to add on that 7th seat. So the good news is we have 6 planning commissioners, and all 6 of them are familiar with what the issues are now, and we'll allow that to carry on for the next 10 months. And if we need to reconsider again, we can definitely revisit it. And I'm saying May just because that gives us a little bit of time. If we decide, hey, this isn't working out, we want to bring in, we want to have 7 back into Planning Commission, we can reevaluate then and maybe do some recruitment to allow for an appointment, and I should say for applications and appointment for more planning commissioners if needed.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I will personally request to agendize that issue next May.
Okay, so do we have a consensus that we're going to, we're all in agreement with the proposal as presented?
If that's, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Mr. Mayor. If that's where Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Goss are, I'm fine supporting that.
Great. So, yeah, and I believe that's exactly how it's presented. So I will make the motion to approve as presented with the friendly amendment that in May we'll revisit to evaluate.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, if you can call for the vote, please.
Mayor Kaposha,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi,
Aye.
Councilmember Goss,
Aye.
Councilmember Harabedian.
Aye.
The motion to adopt ordinance 1429 as presented was passed by unanimous vote, and the addition of the issue would be revisited in May of 2021.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we're down to discussion item 2, use of funds for potential downtown assessment district.
Mayor, this will be our management analyst, Sophia Kovnatsky.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So discussion item 2 is going to be concerning the use of surplus funds for a potential downtown assessment district. Just for some general background, this was discussed on May 26th. Council directed staff to proceed with the process to combine our downtown districts into one assessment district. However, Council also wanted a separate discussion on how to use our surplus funds. We have a balance of about $650,000. And should the downtown district proceed, there are 4 options for the use of these surplus funds. So option 1, it's on the next slide. Bear with me on the process, but we would be transferring the surplus to the general fund. So how it would work is if there is a surplus at the end of fiscal year 2021, Council would resolve not to assess property owners for a 1-year period. After this 1-year period without new proceedings, that would be the beginning of fiscal year 22-23, the Council would then be able to adopt a resolution ordering the transfer of these surplus funds into the general fund. So Council has 2 options for how to use these surplus funds once they're in the general fund. Option 1A would essentially be to allow that surplus to be used for almost any purpose. Let it stay in the general fund and be used as any way desired. However, considering that these funds were raised by property owners, council may choose to dedicate these funds for a specific use dedicated towards the downtown. So although it would be considered a general fund expenditure, they could direct this to be used for a park improvement, downtown beautification, any event support happening downtown. The second option would be to transfer this surplus from this old district into the new consolidated district. This would mean that the funds would only be used for the benefit of the district. That would be through improvements, offsetting costs, again, downtown beautification. This process is a two-step process. So the first step would be to transfer these funds into the general fund. And then once in the general fund, council would just order the transfer of this surplus amount into the new district. This would essentially ensure that funds from any old district would go straight into the new consolidated downtown district. Option 3 would be to issue these refunds to the property owners. So once the district is dissolved, council would issue refunds to property owners proportionally. That would be in relation to their last assessment roll. I would emphasize that this refund would be available to property owners and not necessarily business owners who rent out the properties in the downtown district. And also this refund is only available if we dissolve the district entirely, instead of options 1 and 2, which would maintain the district and we just don't charge property owners for a year. So the general recommendation is we're asking council to direct staff to proceed with one of those following options. And I'm opening it up to any questions.
Okay, questions from council?
One question I had, thank you very much for the presentation. One question I had for the option 1B would be if we were to transfer into the general fund and specify for use, would that 600,000 or so or more, if we said we want to specify for current businesses in terms of subsidies during the COVID crisis, some sort of program like we have just to bolster the program that we currently have for grants. I mean, is that something that we could do?
Yes, once it's in the general fund, I believe so. However, I would specify that these funds wouldn't be available in the general fund until fiscal year 22-23. So we're looking a couple months ahead.
Okay, well, that's good to know. It's a good point. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Goss or Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions for me right now.
Okay, I have a question. If we chose, since option 2 is a two-step process, which we start with option 1, when we're at the point where we undertake step 2, can the council change its mind and then use the funds for any purpose or for another specific purpose?
So from what I understand, once it's in the general, if our current council would direct this and it's on record, I would believe that the future council would have to discuss this again. Am I wrong there? I would defer to our deputy city attorney on that one.
Right. So my point is again, will this happen in the open? If we chose option 2 today, say this council's intent was to use this money for the consolidated district, before the money is transferred from the general fund, is that a decision point for the future council?
Yes, Mayor, that's correct. There's both some technical pieces that would have to take place, but it also would have to be an approved expenditure as part of the budget process.
Okay, so they could change their mind and either keep it in the general fund or use it for a specific purpose, like what you said here.
That's correct, Mayor. I think if the general direction of council is to make a recommendation, but ultimately let a future council decide, then the least restrictive is option 1A, where it's in the general fund. And then in 22-23, that city council could then decide, leave it there, put it back in the district, or use it for a specific purpose.
I'm personally not that magnanimous that I would do that. But okay, that's my questions. So any other comments or questions?
I had one just really quick follow-up. Realistically, if we were to shift this over, kind of building on the mayor's questions, if we were to shift this over to the new district, what realistically is this going to be spent on?
Good question.
So there, I don't know if the Public Works Director is still on, but one of the discussions we're going to start having with our downtown is not just the traditional maintenance that we're a little bit behind on with the parking lots behind the businesses, but also making our downtown more pedestrian friendly and walkable, potentially talking about adding what's known as parklets and expanding sidewalks out while also doing all the traditional stuff that we've been doing. So it honestly would not be an issue to spend it in our downtown area effectively. But without knowing what work we're going to do from today when we start making these recommendations to council to 22, 23, it's hard to say which specific project it would go to.
And just a follow-up question to that, Mr. City Manager, even if it goes to general fund, we can still continue doing the works like the parklets and improvement of the parking lot, correct?
That's correct, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right, let's open it up for public comment.
Mr. Mayor, it does not appear there are any callers for public comment.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, back to council. So what's your thoughts, folks?
I can go.
Go ahead. No, go, Mayor Pro Tem.
I was just going to share that I think when I first looked at this, I automatically thought general fund, and I'm still thinking general fund. But you know, a few reasons for that. I think we've been very responsible in terms of fiduciary responsibilities as to how we manage our general fund, and understanding also where some of our shortfalls are going to be in the upcoming years due to the COVID pandemic. And as we have learned from our city manager, we're not sure where some of the reimbursements, if we're going to get reimbursed for some of the dollars that we've fronted during this pandemic. And I think it's important to ensure that we have the flexibility to use some of those dollars in the future. So as much as I like the idea of seeing it go to the district for the purposes that you know, were identified as examples by the city manager, we'll also have that flexibility to do that in the general fund. So it sounds a little selfish, I feel like, to say we want in the general fund, but because there's been so much uncertainty over the last 6 months, and who knows what's going to be an uncertainty over the next year, I think it's going to be extremely important for us to have those dollars in, not reserves, but in the general fund, where we are not held to specific uses that we think make sense today that may not make sense in 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think, and I generally agree with that. I think my view of this is whether it's, I kind of come down to either 1B or 2, whether it goes into the general fund with specified purposes or whether it goes in the new district. I guess I'm ambivalent to the form. It's almost like a form over substance matter for me, because I want to make sure that the money goes back to helping the business district and the business owners. So whether it's more efficient to put it in the general fund and have a council, whether it's this council or future council, to the Mayor Pro Tem's point, specify how it should be spent, I'm fine with that, as long as it's being spent, again, augmenting and helping our downtown business owners and helping with the business district. Whether it's in the new district or whether it's in the general fund, I really am ambivalent. So I would say 1B and 2 are equally good in my mind. 1B probably is a little bit easier administratively. But what I guess I don't want to see is, I don't think refunding the property owners necessarily helps the business owners who are down there right now leasing and renting out space. So I'm not a huge fan of that. And I guess my only concern about putting in the general fund without some ties to it would be, it's really just not spent on helping downtown. So I'm happy to do either 1B or 2.
Okay, Councilmember Goss.
Well, I agree with you, my colleagues here, except I do believe that in the best case scenario, in the best world possible, given the financial responsibility that we have exercised for years now, I would in fact issue refunds, option 3, if we weren't looking at the pandemic and all kinds of imponderables in the next 12 to 24 months. So I think what Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Harabedian is saying is right, given that. And I think I'd rather see it go in the general fund and give our staff a little more flexibility, but agree that it would, those general fund expenditures would be focused on the downtown business area where the revenues originated from.
Okay, well, here's a case where we're all over the place, because I would prefer option number 2, so that we're basically at this point in time earmarking it to ensure that it gets spent downtown. Of course, with option 1B, we certainly have the option to do that. But if we vote for option 2, then we are making a statement to say that our intent is that it gets spent in the downtown. And Councilmember Harabedian, I mean, that's what you're saying, is that you think that's the right thing to do. So I would make an argument to say that this is the best way to ensure that that happens. And if future council decides otherwise, that's fine. But to Councilmember Goss, I would argue against giving it back to the property owners, because the property owners are not necessarily the business owners. And so you're basically would be giving, to me, a windfall to a landlord in many cases. And the money then would not be invested in the city. So that would be the one thing I don't want to do. I want to see that the money gets invested in the city. And as I've always said, I just think the downtown area is kind of our pride and joy here in Sierra Madre. And the better that downtown is, I think the better the quality of life is for the entire city. So I think by option number 2, in my mind, that is the strongest signal that would be our intent of improving our downtown. And that's where the money came from to start with. So putting it back there, I think is the right thing to do. And by choosing option 2, it'd make our intent the most clear. So let's go around and see if anybody agrees with my point of view on that.
Mayor, may I ask a question either to Analyst Kavansky or to City Manager England? Is with the question that Councilmember Harabedian brought up initially about grants, let's say to businesses, is that something that can come from either 1B pot or the option 2 pot?
Mayor Pro Tem, unless the Deputy City Attorney wants to provide the information, I think that's something we might need to research. A lot of these depend on which of the older state laws this was founded under and what they're going into. So it might be a little bit of a complex answer, but I know the Deputy City Attorney has been looking at different uses, so I'll see if he can clarify that.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't believe you can use it for grants if it's going to be placed in a new district. The new district is limited by its organic law as to what it can spend the funds on. And I'm pretty sure that issuing grants to businesses is not one of the permitted uses of the funds.
Thank you. And therefore, I give another push to consideration of 1B, again, to have a little bit more flexibility. I mean, I'd like to have information as to what really can be used in option 2 and the specific uses. But again, I think that even reaffirms where I wanted to go with the general fund and 1B. That seems like a good compromise between you, Mayor, and Councilmember Harabedian, but the general fund, again, flexibility, but 2 can still be dedicated use, specific purpose. to benefiting the district.
I want to make one more argument in favor of option 2. It's a perception thing that we've been accused of this before, of taking money that was earmarked for something and spending it on something else. And again, this would just indicate a clear signal that the money is to be spent downtown. And again, the future council has the right to change that when it comes time to spend that money. But at least they've got on record something in front of them that says that this was the intention when it was voted to spend the money downtown.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Look, I think both arguments are good. I'm fine with option 2, given the given I think just the points that the mayor's making. You know, not that you can't get that done necessarily with 1B, and it does give me a little bit of pause not to think about not being able to give, you know, subsidies and refunds to business owners. I would hope by 2022 and 2023 we're no longer there, hopefully, but who knows? So I'm fine going with option 2 because I think it effectively gets us to the place where I want it to get us. So.
Well, I could go with it too. My statement, my thought about option 3 really goes to your point, Mayor, about our intent and our the integrity of our government. If we get money that we don't need, it would seem that we ought to give it back. And I think we would be giving it back in a sort of way if we went through your option 2. I think in either case, we're sending a message that, hey, we're being responsible with the money towards where it came from. So I guess I could go with option 2. I'm okay on that.
Okay, well, I want to just say once again, Council Member or Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi, you both are going to be on the council.
Okay.
So how strongly do you feel about it? Because I feel pretty strongly that option 2 is the right thing to do, but again, I don't want to box the future council in if it's not necessary to do so.
Mayor, you're going to be using that for the next few months, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I am expressing my opinion very strongly here. It's not that I'm waffling. I strongly believe that option 2 is the right thing.
So I obviously am going to be in the minority. I feel very strongly about 1B, again, giving a little bit more flexibility. These are unprecedented times. I think maybe at any other time, I would have been like, oh, I agree with you. We want to make sure there's transparency, and there is transparency, but showing that commitment. But again, we are spending dollars in ways that we have never done before. Money was coming out of our general fund in ways that it has never done before. And again, understanding that we are not, we were also spending the money with the idea and with the hope and almost the promise that we would get reimbursed. So those are dollars we still have to account for somewhere. And again, not saying that all of these, the district dollars would be used for just general operations, but I think it's important to note that. And but you know, I am not going to not vote for option 2 because it's fine. It makes sense. We want the dollars to go there. But I'm again making my argument known for 1B.
I'm trying really hard to get to a consensus here. Councilmember Harabedian for option 1B. So it says council may direct staff to earmark these funds for a specific benefit or improvement. Could we make that 1B to say that our intent is to spend the money in the downtown district?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that was originally where my head was, which is I think 1B and 2 can be effectively the same thing if you just, if you make 1B have some teeth in our earmark. So again, I think, you know, I think you're both right. I mean, it's, I think you can have 1B do the exact same thing as 2 and vice versa. So I'm not that caught up on whether it's 2 or 1B. So that's why I'm
not either. Either way.
I don't feel like it's a big deal.
Okay, so why don't we go with 1B, and would everybody be okay if we today earmark those funds for a specific benefit or improvement, namely the downtown district? And again, future council can take a look at that and change it. I mean, you still have the flexibility.
I will make the motion to approve option 1B and to earmark those dollars for benefit of the district.
Okay. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second that.
Good. Okay. Madam City Clerk?
Mayor Kaposha,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi,
Aye.
Mayor, excuse me, I'm sorry, Councilmember Goss,
Aye.
Councilmember Harabedian.
Aye.
Okay, the motion to approve option 1B with the funds earmarked for the new downtown consolidated district was approved by unanimous vote.
Okay, great. Okay, so with that, I think we're through the agenda. Are there any items for a future agenda?
I do have one, Mr. Mayor, I would like to have some kind of discussion, if possible, on July 28th about having an outdoor council meeting as early as the first meeting in September.
Okay. I think that's a great idea.
It's a good idea.
Okay, any others? Okay, well, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, no roll call necessary on this one. Okay, good night,
Good night, everyone.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Good meeting, guys.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.